So I do not understand what is up with the lighting in this house. It is so orange. Why am I so orange? What's up you guys? Welcome back to Cat Talks. I know I'm slightly late on this October wrap up. I can explain it. First, I took a video of it here. Alright, so I understand it's a bit dark in here, I'm sorry about that. I'm just going to quickly go through a couple of the books I read in the month of October. But the lighting was even more orange. And then I was really excited because my ring light just randomly started to work. And if you ever want to see someone die inside... The Hidden Life of Trees, The Secret Life of Trees, I always get mixed up. Oh no! No! So yeah. It has not been going well for me at all in terms of filming, so I'm really hoping that this time it's not too orange and I actually managed to get through the whole thing. Without further ado then, let's just jump right into it. So the first book that I finished in October was The Hidden Life of Trees. Now this was an Audible book, so I got to read it, you know, on the bus and while walking and things like that, which is really nice. I think I'm going to try, obviously not this month, but in future, choosing at least one Audible book because I do try and walk quite a bit, like home from work and stuff. You can't really read a physical book, is what I'm saying, while you're walking home from work. I also saw like the Audible have a couple of really good books at the moment, like the musical War of the Worlds, which sounds incredible. And then everyone on BookTube has been talking about Sadie, obviously. So yeah, there's a couple of books out there that I'm like, yes, I would like to try those. But I do not have an Audible book this month, and I also don't, you know, they're not sponsoring me. I've not made it yet in YouTube. I'm not being sponsored by Audible. The Hidden Life of Trees is a kind of pop science book exploring the psychology and biology of trees, and yes, when I say psychology, I do mean psychology. He talks about how trees talk to one another, how they evolve, how they migrate from country to country. It's actually really interesting, and it taught me a lot about trees that I didn't know. Unfortunately, this newfound knowledge was mainly used to feel sorry for trees that I saw in the city. I mean, so we've just been, the council where I live have just gone around and cut off all of the branches of all of the trees, and they look like little startled hedgehogs. And I'm like, don't do it, no! I know a lot more about trees than I've ever done previously in my life, and I did really enjoy it, but it is pop science. It's definitely not science. Some of the things that he says aren't necessarily backed up. He oftentimes humanizes the trees. I've forgotten the word for that. Now I'm talking to you guys, but it's not like a scientific paper, which is good because most people, I reckon, would not enjoy reading a scientific paper. I read a few of them for my job, and wow, does it hurt your brain. Then the second book I read was a bit of a palate cleanser, and that was Jack of Hearts and Other Parts. Boom! I bought this when I was in the UK back in April for my birthday, so it was my birthday gift to myself, and it's got the most wonderful cover. This is actually like crinkled on the cover, so but this is the story about a young boy in school who, to help his friend really, does a advice column in her web newspaper blog thing, which she runs, talking about scandals in the facility of their school and the student body, and it's kind of investigative journalism, but it's also kind of gossip. So anyway, he starts this column and he's talking about sexuality, and he's talking about, you know, do you have to be in a relationship before you have sex? He is gay, so lots of questions come from the general populace about that as well. And then he gets a stalkery message in his locker box? In his locker, that's origamied up as a beautiful heart, but it's actually like, you belong to me, stop making these columns. So Jack has to figure out what he's willing to do to find out who this person is, to get them to stop torturing his friends and family, because does he continue doing the column? Will he ever find out who the person is? Who knows? This is a YA, obviously it's set in a school, so most set in school books are YA, not all. I did really enjoy this. I thought the writing was very fresh and very interesting, and I definitely could get into the story very quickly. I loved it. The only thing I would say is that it's kind of like, it's got a very simple plot, which I guess, I mean, it's YA, but it's not middle grade, right? But I thought that the stalking and stuff was really well done. like really scary and kind of like insidious, and you could understand why Jack kind of like made the choices that he did, even when you were screaming at him like, no, don't do it! The next book I read was Obsidian. I did have a physical copy, but I cannot hold it up for you because the library required it back. This is the third and final book in the Illuminae Files trilogy, which started with Illuminae, had Gemina in the middle, and then finished finally with Obsidian. I can't tell you much about the plot on this one, so I'll start with the plot of the first book. The plot of the first book was that these two teenagers have just broken up on the morning that their planet is invaded and attacked by a rival company. Their planet was illegal, so they don't expect any help, but luckily one of their ships, I think, and a neighbouring ship was able to come to their rescue. Remember, ship is not bobbing in water ship is rocket ship. So they're 3 rocket ships, they're trying to escape this planet where this evil, mega rich corporation has decided to completely wipe out the populace, and they're on opposite ships, so a lot of the story is told in kind of transcripts, and it's all mixed media, so you see like pictures and drawings and chats, and then video transcripts as well. It's really well done in terms of the mixed media, and then this book focuses more on the people that were left behind on the planet when those other people managed to escape. So, I really enjoyed this book. It was almost twice the length, I think, of the others. Not in terms of page count, but definitely in terms of page density. It had a lot to wrap up, bless it. I thought it was really well told. Of course, it's Joe Kristoff, and he knows how to tell a story, and Amy Kaufman, I'm sure, also has a really good reputation, although these are the only books I've read by Amy Kaufman. I know it followed the same formula as books 1 and 2, so you never really believed that certain things in the plot happened, for example, because in previous books, if that thing happened, then it didn't really happen. And it's like, there's just only so many times you can cry wolf before you actually need to show up with the freaking wolf, you know? But otherwise, I did enjoy it. It took a long time to get through, but it was fun, and yeah. The next book that I read was something completely different, and this is a non-fiction book called The Effective Executive by Peter Drucker. Peter Drucker is sort of like a guru for business executives everywhere. He's written a bunch of books about the technology age, about how to live a purposeful life, but also a life that makes money, but also a life that's good to other people. I do find his books very ethical in terms of self-help guides. They're very much, you should be good at your job because other people depend on you to be good at your job, not because you want promotions or anything like that. And the executive in the title is just anyone in the position where they get to decide what to focus on and where they get to make company decisions. So anyone can be an executive, he says, but you need to practice and get better at certain tasks to be an effective executive. The writing style is super old-fashioned. So this was written, I think, in the 40s or the 60s maybe, but I think it was the 40s. The word order is different, which was really interesting, and the way that you kind of express yourself is quite different, or at least the way Peter Drucker writes is very different, which did make it quite hard to get into at some points. I think I read a chapter a day, just because I couldn't keep reading after a certain point. I find that with a lot of self-help non-fiction though, and some like more sciencey non-fiction as well. That like I need a break for my brain to catch up with everything that I've read. So, but yeah, I did enjoy this. I thought that it had some really good points and some points that just didn't make any sense to me. A lot of it was about structuring your day so that you have large blocks of uninterrupted time, which obviously I've read in other books as well, like Deep Work. But this was written so long ago that it was probably the founding father of a lot of those studies. Oh, the next book I read was physical as well, and that was Netten's Mirko, which is 2 short stories told in easy-to-read Swedish about dark things in the night. It's not a ghost or a horror book, it's more about dark side of humans, I guess. And I did enjoy it. I felt like it was, it's hard to tell a good story in easy reader Swedish or easy reader any language. And I think this was the book that made me think maybe I should up to YA consistently from now on, because I could see so many places where the story just kind of like it dragged because they couldn't find the words to bump it over, I guess. But I did enjoy it. The first story was about a young woman who comes home from work, and there is an ex-con kind of like waiting in her garage for her. And the second book is about a couple who decide to explore for fun in the afternoon/evening an abandoned ship that looks beautiful, but it's been abandoned for a really long time. And of course there are 2 dudes living on there who they're a bit unsavoury. You never really find out why they were living on a boat. But yes, so that was this one. I did it, I finished it, first book in Swedish down. Then the next book that I finished was a Kindle book, and this was The Unbound Empire by Melissa Caruso. So that is 2 trilogies that I managed to finally finish this month. Melissa Caruso's trilogy is about a young woman called Amalia, I think. Amalia Caramero? Anyway. Whatever her surname is, she is the daughter of a very powerful family. I think it's the Rivera family maybe, but it doesn't matter, Kat. Brain, stop. Her family is very, very important diplomatically. And she accidentally enslaves a mage. So mages in this world, they have powers that can go out of control, and you can control them by putting a gess on them, which is like a bracelet. And the mages usually work with, they're called falcons and falconers, and they usually work quite closely together because the falconer can say a word to release the mage's magic. Unfortunately, and you just kind of like take the bracelet off and someone else puts a bracelet on you, and then, you know, you can change falconer, and you have some choice in the matter. Unfortunately, this bracelet fuses shut, and as a political person, she was not allowed to have a falcon, and that is the first chapter. Anyway, I've been raging about Melissa Caruso's political intrigue trilogy for a long time. I'm so glad I managed to finish it. It was everything that I wanted from that novel, and I just loved it. So I'm really excited about her next trilogy, which is set in the same universe, but I think 200 years later, so it's dealing definitely with the descendants, but it's still got the same power dynamics and stuff. Alright, so then I managed to finish Tribe of Mentors by Timothy Ferris. This is a huge book. This is about nothing really. It's kind of short interviews with lots of famous people who are top of their field and about how they got there. I think Neil Gaiman has a chapter in here, from what I remember. So Neil Gaiman is one of the people who were interviewed, for example, but it's a lot of sports professionals and business owners as well. I thought this was okay. I read I put little sticky notes in, like every 20 pages I think, and that's how many pages I read a day. It was interesting. I didn't learn too much, but it was definitely interesting. It was a lot of like, you know, take care of yourself and advice to ignore from other people. So if you're in a position where you need to make decisions about your life, you know, you're at a crossroads or you're struggling to really focus on your craft, this book might be a good book to pick up and flick through, because it's very much about people who were focused on achieving their goals, and then they achieved their goals, and then they talk about how they achieved their goals. Then I read a book on Audible. It was called Heartstream, and it's my new thriller for the month. This is a book about two young girls. One of them is a heart streamer, so she can stream her emotions to other people in the world, and instead of being like a luxe influencer, she's actually an influencer whose mum is dying of cancer. So she's streaming about her mother. On the day of the mother's funeral, she comes back to the house and a woman is inside, and she has, you know, rigged up an explosive that will take down the house if our streamer tries to leave. And then the other girl is kind of dating a celebrity. It's super hidden, it's not really allowed, and then finds out some stuff about him that she didn't want to know. And kind of like, it's really well told on Audible. It has 2 different narrators for the 2 different women, which really honestly worked really well. I enjoyed it a lot, and I ended up talking a little bit like one of the characters for a while, because it was so like, I just loved her accent so much, and it's not that far from my own, so I could pick it up, and I was just like, yay! But it's gone now, unfortunately. And I have to listen to snippets of it to get it back sometime to show you guys how quickly my voice adopts other people's accents. It's like a freaking camouflage. Like, it's like, boom! When I'm talking to, like, yeah, it's just ridiculous, okay? It's not, it makes me sound kind of racist sometimes, like when I'm talking to my Chinese friends, I slip into la at the end of things and stuff, and I'm like, can we not do that? Is that okay? But it's not a conscious decision, I promise. It's just that my voice, like, I think it's an empathy thing. It like wants to sound like the people I'm talking to, and that can get you in trouble, but it doesn't usually, so it's all good. Anyway, Heartstream, read it. It was so good. Like the cliffhangers and the way that the tension built all the time, and the exploration of technology and its effects on our lives. I just loved it. It was great. The final book I read this month was a classic, and that was Lady Chatterley's Lover by D.H. Lawrence. Lady Chatterley's Lover is about a young woman who married a man who she loved, who got paralysed in a war, and it was just as the industrial age was starting to kick off, and he is obviously unable to satisfy her. And And yeah, it's kind of about women's sexuality and about love and about who can make you happy and whether it matters if they are upper class. So you probably know at least a little bit about this book in that she takes a lower class lover who works for her husband, and it's about kind of like how that relationship develops. I didn't think it was a very healthy relationship, like none of the relationships were very healthy in this book. They were quite self-centered people. There were some sex scenes, but they were like really awkwardly written, like no one is getting off on this book. No one. I challenge you. I enjoyed it. I thought it was an interesting take on England as it kind of went through the industrial age. It talks a lot about how people are losing their ability to be people. Like men aren't men, they're just after money, and women aren't women, they're just after money, and maybe if we all had a lot more sex, the world would be different. I'm not sure that's really how it works. It obviously also is an artifact of its time, so it just had surprising racism blended into the pages, like are you a Jew, or black men aren't real men, except they were, in this example, real men, but that's because they were savages, so yay. But other than the rampant sexism and racism, the book just wasn't very well told. Nothing really happens, so if you want to read 300 pages as if nothing really happens while you explore the changing industrial landscape of England as the coal mines began to run out of juice, this book is good for you. If you just want to understand classics in English and like English writing in general, when it went from Jane Austen, very prim and proper and all about like love, to smut, you know? This is a really, really interesting look at why that happened. But I mean, just read some Oliver Wilde otherwise. Of the 13 books that I said I would read in the month of October, I actually managed to read 9, which means 4 books were not read, which means £8. Oh, sorry. £8 goes into the bingo pot for next month when I do my TBR for December. And I hope you guys have had fun with me here today. Hope if you've read any of these, please let me know in the comments down below what you thought and whether my opinion lines up with yours. I know we have some Illuminate haters in the comment section last time, and I will see you guys next time. Don't know when that will be. I'm going to stop promising when it's going to be because clearly this did not come out on Friday. And I will see you guys